Woj also reported that Toronto does not want to part with Scottie Barnes in a Kevin Durant trade. That is their stance, he said. And Brooklyn right now, he says, wouldn't consider a deal without Scottie Barnes. The Raptors are just the perfect case study here because they're a team that I could see Durant adding to his list, but they're also a team that I think has every incentive to draw a hard line in the sand. And by the Raptors not including Scottie Barnes, it says a few things to me. One, that they probably don't trust KD is very much wanting to play there. I have no doubt that they would acquire him anyway. They did so with Kawhi. Kawhi seemed to enjoy it there, even though he left. They won a title. That's a happy ending. With Durant, it's different. He's older, does have a ton of time left on his deal, but you don't want to have to deal with the ramifications of if he doesn't want to be there, in addition to the injury risk and the age factor. What this also tells me, though, is that the Raptors know Brooklyn has very little leverage here, despite Kevin Durant being under contract for that long. If the offers were that aggressive for Kevin Durant, you don't think we would have heard by now that the Raptors were willing to include Scottie Barnes and then minimal draft equity? And look, at the end of the day, you're not going to get a player like Scottie Barnes. Again, the Raptors are the perfect example here. I don't care where you fall on Scottie Barnes. Do you think he's a future top 10 player? I personally think he has the ability to get there. I don't know what I'm going to peg the percentage at, but we're talking about someone who I believe will be a multi-time All-Star and I think make some All-NBA teams. That's a really fucking valuable asset and player. I hate calling players assets. I apologize for that. You're not going to give up on that, even though it's Kevin friggin' Durant, because you're acquiring him really for a 2-year window in which you think he could be the best player on a title team. After that, you're probably want to have someone else who can ensure that he retreats to the number 2 status. Yeah, Siakam and VanVleet could technically do that, especially when you combine their value. But Scottie Barnes is a player that you are entrusting with the primary hopes of your franchise for the next decade plus. You don't give that up. I'm not even going to say for a player who hasn't put you on your list, but for a player, I don't care how great he is right now, who is at the back end of his prime. That's just the fact of the matter here. And if you mix in this fact that we don't know whether Kevin Durant really wants to play for the Raptors, you, of course, don't give up Scottie Barnes. I wouldn't do it. Just like if I'm the Cavaliers, I'm not putting Evan Mobley on the table. Just like before he signed his extension and I was the Pelicans, I wasn't even putting Zion Williamson on the table. The Nets did not have as much leverage here as I think people believe. And if Kevin Durant gets traded, which I do ultimately believe will happen, I think there'll be one of two instances that he gets sent to one of the two teams that he wanted initially in Phoenix or Miami, and they're just giving up everything they have because it's Kevin Durant and they're on the immediate timeline to justify it. Or Kevin Durant ends up with one of those two teams or another team. It could be a dark horse for much less than we expected. There's still the chance he doesn't get moved, but I think the Raptors specifically are right here not to dangle Scottie Barnes. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm still going to support that stance if Kevin Durant comes out or lets it leak that, yeah, he wants to be in Toronto. You know why? Again, we're talking about going into his age 34 season. I know it's Kevin Durant. I know you acquire him with the chance to win a title. Probably have not only an above average chance, but if you're let's look at what the Raptors would be left with. You have Siakam and VanVleet. I'm going to give you a better than 33% chance of winning the title over the next 2 years. What happens after that? And there has to be the mystery appeal that is Scottie Barnes. And knowing that he has 3 years left on his rookie scale, and that given how restricted free agency works, you're looking at another 4 to 5 years on top of that. That is immense value. And it's why we don't see players traded on this early into their rookie scales when they show that much promise. Andrew Wiggins being the latest example with Cleveland when they got Kevin Love, it was different for one of two reasons. I don't think that anyone thought he was like clearly on the superstar track like we do with Scottie Barnes. Even then, and I know there was a ton of hype surrounding Andrew Wiggins coming out of college and coming out of Kansas. I get that. I'm just saying his rookie year was not as impressive as Scottie Barnes' rookie year. But you also had LeBron pushing for the trade to get Kevin Love, and you had Kyrie Irving already on your roster. This is not the same thing. There is no player on the Raptors at the level of LeBron. I think you can argue there's no player on the Raptors at the level of what Kyrie Irving was then. And even if there is, I think Siakam has a case for that stage of Kyrie's career. And I'd probably take current Pascal Siakam over 2016 Kyrie Irving. I'm just being honest here. The you don't have the LeBron element there to where you have LeBron in his prime and you're under all this pressure to win. You can keep Scottie Barnes and feasibly not only have an imminent path to title contention, but you might still be fringe contenders in the East anyway. I'd probably give the Raptors the top 4 spot in the East as of right now. There's the Bucks and the Celtics and everyone else in the East. It's wide open to me still who could fill the gaps there, whether it's Miami, Toronto, or Philly. Those would be the 3 teams I have in my next tier. So there's that to consider. I'm not giving up Scottie Barnes if I'm the Raptors, even if Kevin Durant wants to play for me. Part of the appeal here is pairing Kevin Durant with Scottie Barnes, where you're sort of segueing into the next era while also being this win now title contender. I would give up Pascal Siakam before I would give up Scottie Barnes. I give up literally anyone and anything else before I give up Scottie Barnes. And that may seem obvious. I think it's less obvious to certain people because of how good Kevin Durant is. If you're Brooklyn, you absolutely push for Scottie Barnes. But if you're going to move Kevin Durant, I would also argue there are worse packages that you could accept than the second tier offers that the Raptors can give you. We haven't heard specific details on what those might be, but it just as a basis, if it's Pascal Siakam and a shit ton of draft equity, the Nets, as we know, want to win now. That makes a ton of sense. If they aren't as interested in winning now and they want to maximize their draft equity, Toronto can trade pretty much their entire future draft. They have Gary Trent Jr., OG Anunoby, both of whom are on the super young end. And I know GTJ is going to be a free agent next summer, has a player option. There's still a ton of value in having his bird rights. OG has 2 years left on his deal. I still believe there's a higher end offensive player there. And if you're in Brooklyn without Kevin Durant or Kyrie Irving, you might have the chance to plumb the depths of that game. What I'm basically saying is any of the framework of the offers I just laid out, I'd argue Toronto's second best or even third best offer, maybe even fourth best offer, is going to be better than Miami's best offer at this point. As long as within reason, that Toronto's not like, oh, we're going to give you salary filler. It's OG, GTJ, and Kem Birch for Kevin Durant, and that's it. So within reason. And I think their top offer, maybe even their second best offer, again, non-Scottie Barnes division, competes, if not actually beats out what Phoenix can do. Those are the 2 teams I look at, Toronto and Phoenix, that I think have the guts to trade for Kevin Durant and have the best packages for Kevin Durant that aren't actually the best packages Brooklyn might be looking for. If KD opens up his teams to include other squads, could the Pelicans get involved? I don't know. I think they could give Toronto or Phoenix a run for their money with their best offer around a Brandon Ingram type package. I still look at this race as Phoenix and Toronto being neck and neck, but I do think something needs to appreciably change on the actual front in Brooklyn with Kevin Durant. The Nets either need to lower their asking price, which I think only happens if Kevin Durant lets this drag out, or Durant needs to open up his list of preferred destinations to really get these sweepstakes up and moving here.